But next up is a former Pac-12 showdown.
Pac-12 after dark.
Pac-12,
it's back, right?
It quite literally is, basically.
Sort of.
It's unfortunately now Big 12 versus Big 10, but it's an old Pac-12 game. And Utah at UCLA, 11 p.m. Eastern time on Fox. We're going to be up until 2 a.m. watching this ball game. Can't wait for that, though. These are two programs that are hoping a transfer at quarterback will lead to a bounce-back season for them, because both Utah and UCLA were brand new members of their conferences last year. UCLA in the Big 10, Utah in the Big 12. Utah entered the year as the highest ranked team in the Big 12 in the preseason AP poll. They were number 12 in the AP poll, their second best opening ranking in program history. However, they would have their first losing season since 2013 with only a 5-7 record overall. And the biggest reason for that was their revolving door, really, at quarterback. They had the worst passing grade in the Power 4 last year at 48.4. 4 different quarterbacks started games for Utah last year. But they added a really exciting transfer in New Mexico's Devin Dampier. He should provide some stability for Utah. He was the 6th highest graded quarterback in the country last year with an 89.9 PFF grade as only a sophomore last year too. UCLA, their first year in the Big 10 was not as successful as their last 3 years in the Pac-12. They had 3 straight winning seasons from 2021 to 2023. But last year, in their first year under head coach Deshaun Foster, only a 5-7 record like Utah last year. But they have hopes to make a bowl game in 2025 because they added Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee in the transfer portal, who, in my opinion, is the 9th best quarterback in America entering this year. So really, 2 programs that did not make a bowl game last year because of quarterback, but now 2 programs have a lot of hope for 2025 because of new quarterbacks.
Well, your quarterback has to be a symbol of hope, right? I mean, absolutely. I think when you look at these 2 teams and look at the talent that they – and a lot more people know Nico Iamaleava, and obviously it was highly publicized, his transfer and that whole process that went down of him going to UCLA, but he really is the biggest ray of hope for this team. And then you look at Devin Dampier. Max, I love Devin Dampier.
Yeah.
I think he's just awesome. I think he's perfect for this offense, behind this offensive line, especially what he can add to this team with his legs, and then in the play action game complementing off of it. You know me. I picked Utah to win the Big 12. Devin Dampier was a big reason for it. I think they're set up for success this year. And you mentioned it. If Utah wasn't such a mess at quarterback, if they had something even average, probably win something closer to 8 or 9 games last year, right? Yeah. And compete near the top of the Big 12. Maybe the passing game wouldn't have been good enough to win it, but that was really the whole reason they went 5-7 in their first losing season since 2013.
Yep, absolutely. So you actually have the UCLA offense against Utah's defense. Just tell me, simply put, what should we know about Nico Iamaleava in a brand new situation?
You know, it's him and even the entire offense and program. What in the world this adjustment and this offense is going to look like? So let's take Nico at Tennessee real quick, okay? Tennessee, about a 50-50 run-and pass team, 34th highest in the country, 28th in yards per carry. UCLA last year, they ran the ball at the 9th lowest rate in the country, and they were 115th in yards per attempt. So UCLA ran the ball a lot less last year. 2, Tennessee, highest play action rate in the nation. UCLA, 3rd lowest play action rate in the nation. Iamaleava, he had play action on 57% of his pass attempts last year. Just a ridiculously high rate. Basically, that's just how the Josh Heupel offense works. And then deep ball. Tennessee, 5th highest average depth of target in the Power 4. UCLA, 5th lowest in the country. So you're talking about play action, deep ball, running the ball, complete opposite at UCLA. Now, the other question is their new offensive coordinator, Tino Sunseri. Okay, he was the quarterbacks coach under Kurt Cignetti at James Madison and at Indiana. So it's going to lean more in that direction with the play action, with the RPOs and things like that to kind of reel it in. But it's not all the way necessarily on the Josh Heupel scale of what Nico's used to, right? So it's going to be more conservative and look more like Indiana's offense last year for Tino Sunseri at calling plays. But I think that's just really the question. What does this offense look like in total? What are Nico's adjustments to it when you talk about, okay, he's so used to Josh Heupel's system, and to some degree we're dialing it back. And this Utah defense is still pretty darn good and really aggressive, and they're going to blitz them and run a lot of man coverage, and UCLA's even lost some guys at receiver and things like that. I don't – it's kind of a thing of like I just don't actually know what this offense is going to look like. And it's great to have Nico as the talented guy, but it's just tough to project with the lack of deep ball if they're not going to throw it as deep. Obviously, nobody throws it as deep as Josh Heupel as often, right, at Tennessee. It's just going to be an adjustment. I don't know if it'll be a tough adjustment, an easy one, how that's going to go, but it's a tough matchup against Teo Johnson, especially this Utah secondary, to try to see what Nico's got right off rip. This is a good defense still.
Absolutely. My matchup watching the other side of the ball is Utah's dominant offensive line against what is a shaky UCLA defensive line. Utah will likely rely on its run game in 2025 with one of the nation's best runners at quarterback in Devin Dampier coming in, and one of the best offensive lines in the country too. In fact, Utah entered the year with my number 2 offensive line in college football, and really, you could make a really good argument they should have been number 1 on that list. Spencer Fano, their right tackle, he is the best offensive lineman in the country. Stellar sophomore year last year, led the nation with a 92.7 PFF grade and a 93.6 run blocking grade as a true sophomore last year. OT1 in the NFL draft for both Trevor Sikkema and I believe Connor Rogers had him OT1 too for the draft. On the other side is another guy who could be a first-round pick, and Caleb Lomu at left tackle. And on the interior, you got Tanoa Togiai, who last year was 3rd in the Power 4 in PFF grade and run blocking grade. And they brought back starters at center and right guard this year too. UCLA's defense last year was 97th in run defense grade, and 4 of its players from the front 7 were drafted in the NFL draft, including a pair of second-round picks in linebacker Carson Schwessinger and edge rusher Olufemi Oladejo too. So UCLA struggled against opposing run games last year, and you take away 4 guys from that front 7 that were drafted in the NFL this past year too. I am worried for UCLA's run defense, against Devin Dampier and that offensive line.
Yeah, it's a problem. That's a real problem, especially those four guys off to the NFL, like you mentioned. The D-line, especially in this game. I mean, look, listen, if you're a good defensive line, you've got to buckle up against Utah and the way they're going to run the ball, and I can't even imagine what Utah's drawn up scheme-wise with Devin Dampier now as their quarterback. That's what we're going to be looking for. I think especially early in this game, well, Utah is going to run the hell out of the football. I really think they're gonna want to go in there and be the physical team, because that offensive line, it's their best asset. Yeah, and their defense is good, obviously, and I love Dampier, but that O-line, that's a problem for any team any week, especially in the run game with all those zone concepts. Fano and Lomu, especially on the edges, that could be a real problem.
So in an old Pac-12 matchup, and a matchup between 2 teams looking for bounce-back years with brand new quarterbacks, who will win between Utah and UCLA? Remember, you do have Utah winning your the Big 12 in your rankings.
Well, but that doesn't necessarily mean I have to have them winning.
This game doesn't matter for conference standings. So you could pick UCLA. Are you doing it?
See that? No. I like Utah in this game. I actually like Utah a lot in this game. I have Utah 38, UCLA 16. I think this.
So you're saying take the 6.5 point spread?
I'm taking it. Yeah. I'm taking it to the crib. I'm telling you, the matchup you just mentioned, that offensive line against I think shaky UCLA D-line, I think could be a serious problem when it comes to especially UCLA trying to stop the run. Yeah. I think there's a chance that Utah runs for like 300 plus in this game. I really do. I think they could go out there and just have a potential field day in the run game. And if that happens, and I think games where they hold Devin Dampier to 20 to 25 pass attempts, they're going to feel good about, especially with what he adds on the ground. It's going to be a run-heavy attack all year for Utah. I think it starts in this game. I think they get off to a good start, and they get this run game really rolling. I love the addition of Dampier. If this team is stable at quarterback, they're going to be really good. It's why we've both picked them to compete near the top of the Big 12. But I have that matchup you mentioned of their O-line against UCLA's D-line. And the front 7 as a whole, you mentioned you lose Schlesinger, you lose Medrano at linebacker. Yeah. A huge problem. I think a huge problem. They have the ability to control the pace of this game. And with Nico having to make the adjustment to whatever this new offense is going to look like, We know Utah is going to put the heat on him. They're not going to allow those big plays. They're going to blitz him a lot and make him throw on time. I think this game is a big problem for UCLA. I really like Utah and how physical they are and what they're going to bring to the table in the trenches.
I've got Utah easily covering as well. A little bit closer, but still 31-17. Utah winning this game. I think that Utah offensive line is going to dominate UCLA in this game. I think Devin Dampier should have a really good game in his first game at Utah. Also, other side of the ball, I'm worried for Nico. I think this is a different offensive scheme he's used to at UCLA with a worse supporting cast than he's used to from what he had at Tennessee. And you're going against Kyle Whittingham, one of the best defensive minds in college football, who always produces elite results on defense. Even last year, they had an elite defense last year. I am worried for Nico Imaliava in this game too.
Agreed. Without play action last year, his passing grade was 65.6.
Yeah.
It's not great. A lot of it was the arm strength is obviously great. Nico's got all the tools in the world. But this is an adjustment now. It really is, and you're not just going to be able to take the deep shots like you did every week at Tennessee. I think this is a very bad matchup for UCLA. I do.
I agree. So both of us are saying take the 6.5 points for Utah over UCLA.